today I have none other than Romell Freeman with me, creative entrepreneur.
And I think if you can really be in tune with how you operate as an individual and as a creative, that's gonna put you in a really good position
For sure.
to know, like, hey, this is a environment where I'm gonna thrive.
This is what this episode is all about. You know, W-2 employee, freelance. You went back to W-2, and then now you're back freelancing again.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
obviously you've done it twice now to really understand why. What are like some steps you would give them, like if they want to transition from being a W-2 employee to owning their own business?
I would say the first thing.
Welcome to another episode of the Creative Den Pod. Welcome, man. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, man, absolutely. It's an honor to be here.
Yes,
for
sir.
sure.
How you feeling?
I'm good.
Good.
Yeah, ready to get into it and just talk about, literally all the things.
Yeah, man. Let's do it. So, creative. What do you do as a creative?
So pretty much I would say my bread and butter has always been video.
Okay.
But through my journey, I think I've kind of taken on other skill sets within the creative lane, whether it's photography, graphic design, branding. Yeah, literally a compilation of all those different things. But I would say my true passion and love is
It's
video.
video. Yeah.
Yeah,
Same as me, man.
yeah.
Yeah. How did you figure that out? You know, because a lot of times as creatives, we have multiple things we like to do. We might be proficient in them, you know, but there's that one thing that we excel at. How did you figure out that video was your thing?
I think I've always been the type of person that will try different things. And I'm also the kind of person, I think just because of my background, former athlete, very competitive, like I don't love doing things that I'm not good at.
Gotcha.
And so video, for whatever reason, I there was a lot of skills that I had to learn and develop
Hmm.
within the video space. But I will say there was this part of it that kind of came naturally
Gotcha.
to me. And so I think because of that, I just, dove a lot deeper into it and fell in love with it because I naturally had this talent
Hmm.
when it came to video.
For sure. For sure. That's cool, man. So you're an athlete. What'd you play?
Football.
Football. Primarily. Where did that take you? Where did you stop your
Yeah, college. So I
college?
played,
Okay.
I got a scholarship at a small school, middle of nowhere, Kentucky is a NAIA
Nice.
school. And so I played 4 years there. And I remember even during that time, football, of course, was like my passion. But I was still, like making videos with
Really?
like media day
Yeah.
and things like that. Had a couple videos go viral, during that time,
Nice.
which viral for that time space probably was
It's
like
a little different.
15,000, views or whatever.
For
But
sure.
yeah, man. So I kind of even then still had a camera around. So
Nice, nice, nice. That's cool, bro. Was that before you moved to Arizona? So because you're from Tennessee, right?
yeah.
And then you went to Kentucky to
Mhm.
play there. Did you go back to Tennessee before coming to Arizona?
Yeah, so from Tennessee, went to college in Kentucky. After graduating, I moved back to Tennessee,
Okay,
and then uh, I was working for a church.
gotcha.
So that was my first full-time job, was working for a church. And then when I moved to Arizona, um, I just needed a job, so I was
Hmm.
working a regular job, and then eventually got back into working for a church as a creative, which
Yes,
is
sir. That's where the story begins.
where we connected.
Prior to that, though, I met you. I want to say a year before that. I don't know if you
Yeah,
remember this. There was a church in I think Mesa, Gilbert,
yeah.
and I was
Focus 314.
yeah.
Shout out to Pastor Darren
Yes,
Niblink.
yes, I was
Yep.
playing drums one
Yeah.
day, and then you popped in. I think Lorenzo was with you at some
Mhm.
point as well. What were you doing then with them?
Yeah, so when I moved to Arizona, I was in a really rough place.
Mm,
I was starting over from like ground zero.
gotcha.
And so my pastor had connected me to Pastor Darren,
Mhm,
whose church we were at. And he essentially was kind of like the person that took me under his wing for that year and opened me up to his life and his family
mhm.
and yeah, he was really a pivotal part of I think this move to Arizona going
Gotcha.
well.
Gotcha. Nice, nice. That's good. And then so I met you in about 2017. So now I was working at a church, which name I'm not gonna mention. If you know the name, you know the name. But I was working at a church and 2018 I started there. Roughly 2019, I didn't tell you this, but I knew I was gonna start transitioning out. And that's when I met Yun and Lorenzo. And you guys, seemed like great guys at what you were doing. You guys were up and coming, figuring out your lane, figuring out what you wanted to do at that point. And I was like, you know what? This would be a great time to start bringing you guys in to different projects that we're doing because I wanted either them to know about you or you guys to see what, it seemed like to work there. And so I transitioned out and this I don't know. I don't know if it's like wisdom from God or because I always like to leave places better than I found it, or do not leave people in shambles when I'm leaving. So I wanted that hole to be filled, and then I brought you in, and eventually, when it was time for them to find someone else, you guys were your name had already been brought up multiple times, and they were like, you know what, let's try out Romell and Lorenzo, and you guys came in.
It's so funny hearing you talk about that because um throughout that whole process
Yeah.
of just getting involved, unpaid,
Hmm.
volunteer. And then I remember you saying like, "Hey, we have a position opening up.
Yeah.
I think you should interview for it."
Yeah.
And it's funny because I don't know how this happened, but literally it was all the way up until I think like I was about to get hired.
Hmm.
I thought it was gonna be like a trio. So I was like really excited. I'm like, okay, me, Lorenzo, Akin, the trio, we're
Yeah.
gonna, run it up here in the creative space. And then it was like, oh nah, he's out. He's so bro, that was like
Oh,
that
man.
was a shock to me. I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh. Oh, okay, so
Yeah.
we're replacing him. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha."
Yeah.
So,
Nah, that's what's up. That's crazy because in that moment, man, I just felt like that was the right thing to do. At least
yeah.
just leave them with somebody and
Yeah, for
not
sure,
just bounce out,
for sure.
So
And
that was
I'm
that.
grateful I'm grateful, that you were able to kinda see that, in me and kinda set that up,
For
so,
sure. For sure.
yeah.
Yeah, man. What was that experience like? If you wanna get
Yeah.
into it.
So I had worked for a church in Tennessee
Hmm.
for several years, and it was not in a creative role. It was in a pastoral role, and ended up being one of the fastest growing churches, which is interesting because the church that we both worked for out here very similar,
Yeah.
but I had taken time away from ministry,
Hmm.
and so this this creative role, at this church was my introduction back into, being in ministry
Gotcha.
again, and so it it was a lot,
Yeah.
honestly, because there was that side of it. This was also my first, full-time role as, a creative director, video director,
Hmm.
and so I felt like I knew ministry like the back of my hand, but having to experience it in this whole other way
Yeah.
was very unique and interesting. But I think the two like actually really helped me
Mm.
as far as maybe how I went about the creative side of
For
things.
sure.
And so, um, I actually was not there very long, and I
Mhm.
think primarily, it was less than a year, maybe like 9, 10 months. But I think the biggest thing, although I was thankful to be back in ministry,
Yeah.
um, creatives, we're unique. So I think there's certain roles where maybe if it's like accounting
Mhm.
or whatever, you can get away with a lot of things, but I think as a creative, you have to be in an environment that is best suited for how you operate.
For sure.
So that's leadership, that's culture,
Yeah.
that's systems.
Mhm.
And so I think at the end of my time there, um, it was a matter of just realizing that those specific things were not a good fit for me.
For sure. For sure. No, no, no. That's good. I think it's also good to know, and then when you realize that, take the necessary steps to either remove yourself from a situation, or stick through it, but like find reasons why you want to stick through it and actually come out better, on the other side
Yeah.
of it. But
Yeah,
yeah.
and I've never regretted the decision to stick through
Mhm.
things, for as long as I can, and I think for me, it's always been very clear in
Yeah.
my life when it's time to move on to the next thing,
That's
but
fine.
I've never regretted, kinda enduring for a little bit,
For sure.
because it does, it makes you
It
better,
does.
it grows you, it matures you, and I think that discomfort
Hmm.
is actually the thing that kinda, like, makes you level up.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Before we move on to the next thing, what would you tell creatives in church that may seem overworked, not necessarily getting the accolades that it deserve? What would you tell them?
Man, that's a great question. I think 2 things.
Yeah.
I think 1, you gotta have people in your life that can look at things from an outside perspective.
Hmm.
And I've always had those people in my life, which I'm very thankful for. And I think if it was up to me, I'd probably get out of situations a lot quicker.
Yeah.
But when you have people who can offer an outside perspective, they can kind of let you know, like, hey, no, you know, um, I think this is something that you need to wrestle with for a little
Hmm.
bit. Again, it's going to mature you, grow you. And they can also say, oh, no, like that's actually not good for you.
Right.
That's just blatant toxic.
Hmm.
So you need to, get out of there or whatever. And so I would say definitely have people that can give you a different perspective.
For sure.
They may be the voice that makes you realize that, like, no, it does, like, I'm not supposed to be in this environment.
Hmm.
Or they can be the voice that lets you know, like, hey, no, you're okay, like
Yeah.
you can endure this
Yeah.
a little bit. And then the other thing I would say is you have to understand how you operate
Hmm.
as an individual
Hmm.
and as a creative. And I think if you can really be in tune
Hmm.
with how you operate as an individual and as a creative, that's gonna put you in a really good position
For sure.
to know, like, hey, this is a environment where I'm gonna thrive
Hmm.
and I'm gonna succeed and I'm gonna be, you know, the person that I know that I am,
Yeah.
versus putting yourself in a situation where it doesn't matter what you do,
Hmm.
it's just not the right fit for you, and so you're never going to truly thrive like you're meant to, because it's kind of like the analogy of school,
Hmm.
right? School is kind of like, uh, there's like one set way of doing school, but
Right.
it's like, maybe some people are wired very differently. And it's not that they're, not good
Hmm.
at school. It's just like, it's not crafted towards how
For
they're
them.
gifted and wired.
Yeah.
And so the same thing with us as creatives, I think you have to understand how you're wired
Yeah,
and what environments you're
you're
gonna
gonna thrive
thrive
in
best in.
for sure. That's a word, man. Okay, so moving on. After the church, you decided to go freelance for a
Yeah.
little bit. This is what this episode is all about. The transitioning
Mm.
from a W-2 employee to freelancing, and then we'll get back to your story again. So W-2 employee, freelance, you went back to W-2, and then now you're back freelancing again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
obviously you've done it twice now to really understand why and
Mhm.
to really understand, to be able to, point to other people that may be on the verge of
Yep.
wanting to do that and why they should do it or not do it.
For sure.
So after the church, you went freelancing. Talk through that whole situation.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I think in every aspect of my life, I feel like it's always been very clear whenever it was time to pivot or move on to something different.
Hmm.
And so, whenever it was very evident that my time where I was at was coming to an end, I didn't know necessarily how that would play out. In fact, I was terrified.
Yeah.
So this was 2020,
Hmm.
pandemic, and people are losing their jobs. People are struggling and really going through it
Yeah.
as a result of COVID.
Hmm.
And here I am leaving my
Hmm.
full time job.
Man,
Thankfully, man, I've just been, and I really do point it back to it being a God thing,
for sure.
but I've just been so blessed to be able to meet the right people
At the right time.
at the right time. Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's like, of course, you have to have a certain skill set and develop yourself.
Mhm.
But man, I just can't help but like point a lot of my success back to just meeting the right people at the right time. And
Right.
so, through my time of um just networking and things like that, I was able to have, clients
Mhm.
that needed content. And remember, this is 2020. So the
There's not a lot
pandemic,
going on then.
well, the big thing is that everything is shut down.
Right.
So everything was moving digital.
True.
Everyone needed content because they wanted to stay, relevant and present. And so uh the thing that I was so afraid of
Mhm.
actually was the thing that I think catapulted me and made that experience of leaving my full-time job and freelancing full-time
Gotcha.
a success.
Mm.
So much so to the point to where, when I first left, um my brother, he's a creative, he's an
Mhm.
entrepreneur as well, and I remember him telling me like, "Hey, you're gonna have months where you're killing it.
Mhm.
You're gonna have a lot of money coming in. There'll be months where things will be super dry. Keep that in mind as
Yeah.
you're on this freelance journey."
Right.
Um, and I always had that mindset. But what was crazy, bro, is during that year, I never had a month where it was dry.
That's good.
Um, for a while there, I was literally just like doubling my income
Nice.
from what I was making, working my full-time job.
Mhm.
And so uh it was hard. I got to say that cuz I think sometimes like we listen to podcasts and
Mhm.
people kind of talk about things and it's from a very glorified state.
For sure.
We don't really grasp sometimes that yes, although you can be having success, making a lot of money, there's still grit, grind, pain, So
Yeah.
don't think, that time wasn't there wasn't any of that cuz there absolutely was.
Since we're there now, tell us like a specific moment that you could think of that was like, man, this is tough as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, so that mindset of, hey, there will be times where you're killing it.
Mhm.
And then there will be times where no projects are coming in. So you
Mhm.
need to account for that.
Yeah.
That mindset is actually the thing that drove me crazy
Mm.
because it never came. I was saying yes to everything.
Gotcha.
in fear of, like, if I say no to this,
Mhm.
there's gonna be a time where
You
I
need that.
would've wished I took on that project.
Right.
So I said yes to everything, and I got burnt out.
For sure.
Yeah,
For
so
sure.
that's how that kinda
Ah,
played out.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Man, okay. Well, how could you have kept yourself from not saying yes to everything?
I think I would say preparation, planning,
Mhm.
and strategy.
Mm,
So, not to jump ahead, but going back into leaving my full-time employer for the second time around and, starting up my creative media company, there's so many things that I learned
the first
the
time around,
first time that I'm now implementing.
for sure.
Um, and two, I'm just in a way different place.
Yeah.
Uh, and this goes back to something I was talking about earlier where, I was saying creatives, you really need to be self-aware
Mhm.
of yourself.
For sure.
And I would say as time has went on, I've put my reps in.
Mhm.
I've got a long way to go, but I'm not in the same place that I was in, and I know my value.
Yeah.
And so I know and understand, like, hey, these
Mhm.
projects are not worth my time.
Mhm.
And that sounds bad, but
It's
it's
true.
it's just a
Yeah.
reality. And so I'm able to now strategize and understand, like, these are the types of clients
Mhm.
that I work really well with. They have these types of budgets,
Mhm.
and that's how I'm gonna thrive.
For
And so
sure.
I don't need to take on every, client that comes along.
Mhm.
I know which ones are actually going to move the needle.
Definitely. No, that's good. That's good to know because that's exactly where I'm at right now too as well. All right, so going from now freelancing, you went back to a W-2 employment as the creative director for KETo Ice Cream.
Mhm.
How did that all take place? That's a big company. You
Yeah.
know, I was talking to the CEO. I met him at our
Yeah.
church, and it was just like the way it came across for what it did was it made it so minuscule, like so small. Like in a
Yeah.
sense, it's like yeah, I own
He
like an ice cream shop,
and
with my brother.
Chris is so humble.
Yeah.
Because it's funny you say that. I had the same, kinda introduction to
Hmm.
the company.
Yeah.
He's so humble, he just kinda like, "Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
me and my brother started
Did
this,
this. Yeah.
ice cream company," and then so I'm thinking it's like, this small thing, and
Yeah.
then, I get in it and we're, meetings with Walmart
Hmm.
and, you know, we're all the major retailers,
Right.
Fry's, Costco, Safeway, Kroger, you name them.
Nice.
That so yeah, that's so funny because I had
Yeah.
the same experience.
When it when it said the name, I don't even know if it said the name. Maybe it said the name. No, so we're talking through it. Then it was saying something about, oh yeah, Romell works with me or something like that. I
Mhm.
was like, that's keto ice cream.
Yeah.
That's a big brand,
Yeah,
you know?
they were the first ketogenic ice cream
Yeah,
to kinda, like, hit the market, and it just exploded.
nice man.
It's
So
crazy.
tell me, how did you, get into that with
Yeah,
them?
so, again, relationships. Um, Met someone at the right time, and so whenever I made my transition, Chris was someone that I had met prior to that,
Hmm.
and he reached out. And so this is really crazy,
Yeah.
but he said he had a dream
Hmm.
with me and that I was like working with him creatively for his company. And little did he know, I was at a point in my life where I was like, I was making good money
Hmm.
and I was very happy about that. But at the same time, I felt tired.
Gotcha.
Like I was at that burnout place from, again, just saying yes to everything and running around trying to make all this stuff happen as a one man,
Hmm.
band. And so when he hit me up, again, it's always been very clear,
Hmm.
when it's time for the next thing. So I looked at that opportunity and felt like, okay, here's somebody that I just feel this connection to.
Mhm.
I feel like we kind of had that type of relationship. I know nothing about the ice cream space.
Yeah.
I know nothing about keto. But I just, man, I'm the type of person where if I set my mind to something, I
Mhm.
know that I can do it.
Yeah.
And so, we started out as just a retainer relationship. And right around that same time, roughly, I think they had hired a guy from Nestle to lead marketing.
Mhm.
And when he came on, that was when I switched from like that retainer model to a full time
Gotcha.
role.
Nice.
And so I was there for 2 years.
Mhm.
I learned so much just about marketing, branding, um, working with very talented other creators, social media. Although I went into it thinking like, I'm not passionate about ice cream,
Mhm.
there was still so much that I was able to take away from that experience
Yeah,
that really, I think, helped me and is going to really help me apply it to today.
for sure. Nice. Okay. So now we're here with keto. You're deciding to leave, get back to freelancing. How did you make that decision?
I think it was very mutual.
Okay.
Um, so when I first started with the company, there was so many things that needed to be done and needed to be figured out. Like we didn't like when my first project there was like to create brand guidelines.
Mm,
Like they're this multi-million dollar company and didn't have brand guidelines at the time just cuz their growth was just so fast.
yeah,
It was wild. And so I came in and there was like so I feel like that first year was really just like figuring things
for
out and
sure.
just trying to like implement things
Mhm.
and hire the right people as far as like contracting and all of that. And then in the second year, I would say is where I really started to feel like, okay, I'm in a groove.
Mhm.
I got a hang of this. And year two, we did some big projects, man.
Nice.
So like we completely redesigned all of our packaging,
Mhm.
which, for some companies, that's like that takes a long time.
Yeah.
And I mean, we did that because we had ice cream bars, we had ice cream pints. At one point, we had chocolate. Um, so it was all these different categories. But yeah, we completely rebranded everything. We launched another ice cream company
Oh wow.
in year two as well,
Yeah.
which um, was kind of just a spin-off of the keto thing.
Mhm.
So year two was a lot. And once we completed those projects, I felt like I was in a place where I was really valuing freedom,
Mhm.
flexibility,
Gotcha.
and then just wanting to really pursue the things that God had like put on my heart and made me passionate about. And then at the same time as well, I think as a company,
Mhm.
I think they were getting to a point to where, okay, we had just did so much, so many big things, but now, like, we probably don't need a full-time person
Gotcha.
in this role based on how the company's structured and set up, and then as well as just priorities for the next year. And so, yeah, we kinda just came to that decision of like, all right, um, I'm available to you guys
Mhm.
as an independent contractor if you need me, and then I'm gonna go pursue, this next venture.
Nice. Nice. That's awesome, man. So now we're gonna go into where you are now. But I think it's important that it's necessary to see through our journey that everything that we do eventually brings us to where we are.
Mm,
And if we pick up the lessons that we're supposed to learn along the way, once we get to where we're supposed to be, it becomes so much easier because it's like
Yeah.
you've learned all the things that you needed to learn, as you went, through your journey. So, what is something that you learned from being at Keto Ice Cream to something that you're going to implement now?
The value of team.
Mm,
So I went from being a freelancer,
mm-hmm,
doing everything myself, to then being the creative director of this company, and it already had a very lean team.
mm-hmm,
And so naturally, I just went into it thinking I could operate the same way. I'm going to be the photographer, I'm going to be the creative director, I'm going to do the videos, I'm going to be the social media manager,
yeah,
and it doesn't work.
right.
And it was in that role that I realized just the value of one, investing time, energy, and resources into finding people
Mm-hmm,
that can help you move the needle.
yeah,
You can do everything yourself, but you're only going to go so far.
mm-hmm,
And even if you get where you want to go, I guarantee you'll be hanging on by a thread,
definitely.
like barely making it,
Yeah,
barely surviving.
yeah,
And I just don't want to live my life that way.
for sure.
Like, I want to feel good waking up every day. I want to have energy. I want to feel full of life.
Mm-hmm,
And so I have 100% bought into this idea of like team.
mm-hmm,
I'm not going to go very far doing this by myself, and
yeah.
so I got to find the right people to come along that align with the vision, and we can do this together.
Nice. That's awesome. That's exactly where I'm at. I'm testing out someone as an editor
Okay.
right now. I think for me that's the biggest thing I want to give away.
Is that someone that you knew
Yeah.
already?
Yeah.
Okay, cuz
Yeah.
bro, I if if you don't mind,
For
like,
sure. You tried people or
I will say, so I have very high standards,
for
which
sure.
you do too.
Yeah.
I think this is a example of that, but it's been a struggle, bro.
It is.
Like, I'm not gonna lie, I've tried to, try out people, and it's just been hard.
Yeah.
Uh, I've had situations where I've brought on people
Mhm.
to lighten my load, and then they end up giving me more, work and stress. And so
Yeah.
it's interesting. But I will say something, and I know this is just one approach, but
Yeah.
like, just the approach of training people up,
Right.
I have found more success in that
I think so.
versus, you know,
Like someone that thinks they know it all, for sure.
yeah,
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 I think that's what I've taken from this experience is if I want someone to do the thing the way I want to do it, then I have to almost, you know, bring them
yep,
through it and
yep.
grow them
Grow
through
them.
that,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
So, for
for
sure.
sure.
So, out of nothing creative,
Yes, sir.
that's the name, right?
Yep.
Tell us about it, man.
Yeah, so when I was freelancing, I just did the typical take your initials, throw creative on the end of it. I thought I was cool because I put an X in between, so it was,
Makes F.
yeah.
Yeah, man.
Um, and that was cool, but I really felt like I wanted to do something that was bigger
Hmm.
than myself.
Yeah,
So details matter to me. I
definitely.
wish they didn't sometimes, but they do.
Yeah,
And so when it came to the name of this, I wanted to remove myself from it. So I
definitely.
didn't want it to be RF. Like, I
Hmm.
wanted it to be something um that was way bigger than that. And so um I grew up a Christian, and I think my faith, um even though that has always been a journey that
Hmm.
has looked very different in different seasons, um I can never deny that that is a big part of who I am
Yeah.
and what makes me and shapes me. And so in the Bible, in Genesis, um, when God created, there's this term called ex nihilo,
Mm,
and it means from nothing, because God created everything
mhm.
out of nothing.
Yeah,
And so that just stood out to me
nice.
because as I look at life, as I look at business, as I look at being a creative, there's so many components of that where it's like you start with nothing.
Mm,
And then when you look back and you see what you've built or you've grown
yeah,
or you've created, it's like, yes, the end result is amazing
mhm,
and beautiful, but I think the most beautiful thing is knowing that it came from nothing.
yeah,
And so, for whatever reason, that stood out to me. I thought
nice.
it was dope, and I'm like, I want to call this out of nothing creative.
I love it. I love it, man. That's really good because, and I see it as the first thing that we know God did was to create.
Mm,
When it said, in the beginning, God created. That's
mm-hmm,
literally the first thing. So, and that's why I want to push this envelope that everyone is creative.
mm,
And that's not a necessary, like, people don't necessarily say that. People see the videographers, the photographers, designers, painters, artists as creatives, but I don't see the mom in the kitchen cooking for her kids
yeah,
as creative.
yeah,
And for me, I believe that that mom is creative in the way that she handles and takes care of that. So I'm trying to, like, revitalize that approach that we are all creative because we all
yeah.
come from God.
And I think it's that just comes from this box,
Mm.
right? Like I think we as humans love to put things in a
Oh
box in
yeah,
general.
for sure.
So we see the word creative and then we're like, oh, photography, video, graphic design, whatever. But bro, it's so massive.
Yeah,
There is no box.
there isn't.
You use creativity in a plethora of ways that you may not even realize.
Yep.
And I do think creativity is a muscle that you can grow
Hmm.
and kind of develop and strengthen, but you're right. Everyone is using some form of creativity
Yeah,
in their everyday life.
for sure, for sure. And I think it's up to that person to really, especially like in this realm of entrepreneurship, is if you want to grow something, you have to think through it creatively
Mm,
and like sit down, use your mind to talk through what you want to do as a business, figure out like what is, your business plan, what is, where am I taking this thing,
yeah.
essentially. So out of nothing creative, man, I love it. I love what you're gonna do with it because I definitely see you love quality for sure.
Hmm.
I get mad sometimes when I see your Instagram. I'm like, I don't get, like, obviously, like, I'm like, like, cheer you on what you're
Yeah.
doing, but I'm like, man,
Ah,
this guy going around town with his camera, like filming, the vlogging stuff that you do,
yeah.
lifestyle vlogging. I'm just like, that's dope though. I like
What's
it.
what's so funny is I am so like I look at my Instagram
Hmm.
and I like hate it
Same.
because I feel like it's not a true reflection
Hmm.
of me and all the things that I actually do.
For sure.
So like the lifestyle stuff is dope and that's like something that I really enjoy, but then there's like all these other areas of my life that people don't get to see. And
Hmm.
so making this transition, I've I am committing to transforming my social media
Hmm.
to really reflect all aspects of my life.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
But really, it just comes down to like building a, so I'm like building a business,
Hmm.
but I'm also at the same time going to be building a personal brand.
For sure.
So you'll be seeing more of that.
Yeah, man. Nah, I
So
love it. That's dope. Cause I literally shut down my personal Instagram just at a place because married, I had a kid, I had a second kid. I'm like, I don't have time to really
yeah.
build it the way I want to, you know?
Bro,
Um,
what you just said is something that, like, I don't know why that's the case
yeah,
with with us, but I'm the same way.
right.
I'm like, if I can't do it how I want to do it, I'm
Yeah,
just not gonna
I'm not
do
gonna
it.
do it.
And
Yeah,
I get people same thing. Like, I'm sure you as well. Like,
yeah,
hey, you should post more. Or you
yeah.
should, you know. And it's like, I'm just not gonna do
I'm
it.
like, there's one like I want to do it this way,
Yeah,
but because I really can't right now, I'm just,
yeah,
So, but I think now, like really being in this podcast and style of thing, creating content this way,
hmm
has actually, I'm like, I've been thinking more like I may just bring my personal
bro. If
Instagram
you're doing
back.
this, you might
Yeah,
as well, because
yeah,
I think there's nothing wrong with us for having that mindset,
right,
but we should push through that and
right,
do it
and do it
anyways.
anyway. Yep.
And so I would just say do it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cause even with like all of this, like you might as well.
Yeah, I think so. So some of the things that you do that people don't see as well, you real estate.
Yeah.
You have a property downtown, and you just have. Obviously, this is me just seeing on your Instagram. You have a
Yeah.
new one in Tennessee, I assume, because
Yeah.
you've been going back and forth and doing that out. So, how did you get into the real estate side of things?
Yeah. So I got to a point to where I realized I don't want to work forever.
Mm,
I think I will work forever, but I want the freedom to not have to work
right,
if I don't
I
want
feel
to.
you.
And so for me, it was figuring out a way to make that a reality.
Mm,
Um, and real estate was that avenue to do that.
nice.
And so the Tennessee property actually was my first property
All word.
that I ever had.
Okay,
Yeah. And so, um, I have that one. And then I bought a property downtown Phoenix.
mhm,
And then just this past year, bought another one in the Roosevelt Art District area,
nice,
still downtown. But
nice.
yeah, man, basically the I've viewed it's my retirement plan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice.
So take your earned income,
Mm-hmm,
invest it into assets
mm-hmm,
that can make you money, and eventually there will come a point to where you don't have to work. Your
right,
assets are making money for you.
for sure.
And so, bro, I bought into that
Nice,
mindset and I just been running with it.
nice,
It's been super stressful.
for sure.
It's been a lot of work.
Mm-hmm,
But honestly, if I didn't take the time to do all of that, I feel like this transition
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
of going from full time to back to, self employed, there would just be so much weight. And I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of that weight is lifted because, all my properties are generating income.
Yeah, nice.
So
Are you doing more short-term rental or long-term rentals?
I'm doing everything.
Oh,
So
yeah?
literally the downtown property is a short-term rental,
Mhm.
so Airbnb. The Tennessee property is a midterm rental.
Okay,
So those stays are anywhere from 30 to 90-day stays.
nice.
I'm working with an insurance company. So we had a natural disaster hit in Tennessee.
Gotcha.
So right now I have a family, they were affected by that. So um, that's been great. And then my primary residence, I rent out a room.
Nice.
So long-term rental.
Nice, man. That's really cool. That's cool to see because I do like being a landlord because I had a friend of mine on the pod and he told us a story about just being a landlord and just the headaches that come with it as
Yeah.
well, Have you had like any experiences like that?
Yeah, so before the Tennessee rental was what it is now, it was a long-term rental, completely just I don't want to say destroyed, but the tenant that lived there,
Hmm.
they just, man, it was disgusting.
Really?
Yeah, and so what you were seeing on Instagram was
Yeah.
me
Fixing
fixing
it. Oh
getting
man.
it back to, what it should have been.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I think with anything in life,
Hmm.
there's the pros, there's the cons, and you just have to make that decision of realizing like do the cons outweigh the pros.
Yeah.
And if that's not the case, then like, yeah, go through
Keep
it.
going. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice. And that's why you got back to now running a business, right? So let's get into that. What are you primarily gonna focus on?
Man, I'm like up at night
Trying to.
thinking about this.
Yeah.
I know what I'm really good at,
Yeah.
and I know what makes money.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm in a place of trying to find that middle ground.
Mm.
Um, but then sometimes I just think through like maybe I do sacrifice maybe some of the money initially
Mm-hmm.
and just do
Just do the thing.
do the thing. I don't
Yeah.
know. I
Yeah.
don't know.
You and I are very similar in that regard because I keep thinking, man, like with creative collection, like what I really want to do with it. Obviously, I do right now. I do work a full-time job still at a different church,
Mhm.
but I'm also running my company, and just like you, I'm up all night, like really strategizing on
Mhm.
how to make this engine work without me
Yeah,
working, 100% of the time, all the time. So that's exactly where I'm at, with it. So yeah, man, out of nothing creative, such a dope name.
appreciate that.
Yeah, bro. So with knowing that you want to go the team route,
Yeah.
you've tried to hire a couple of people who didn't work before in the past. Where are you now? Like, what do you think your next hire is gonna be?
Yeah, so I've and this is also another motivating factor for me, but I feel like God has brought people into my life and again through just conversations
Mm-hmm.
and relationships like, hey, I want to do creative full time. And so a big motivating factor for me is to build something
Mm-hmm.
that gives people the opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
And so, I have someone right now who's been doing a lot of projects with me. I've just been doing a lot of mentorship, which has been great because it's taken a load off of me as well with in certain areas. And then even like Trey being here
Uh,
and stuff, he's someone who's like, I want to do this full time.
nice.
And so I think as opportunities open up,
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to bring along people to yeah, get to where they want to be
For sure.
as well. And so right now, I would say I'm definitely always looking for behind the scenes, um, people that can really help me in that area because of building the personal
Yeah.
brand
Yeah.
as well. And then I'm looking for editors.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I will probably be very hands-on with that,
Mm-hmm.
just because I do think that is something that I do feel like that's something that I kinda have a certain style,
Mm-hmm.
vibe. Most of my clients, know that
Yeah.
and like that
Yeah.
about working with me, and so looking for editors, but that will be something that I'm very hands-on
Nice.
with, and then, I think, like, on the branding side, I will probably hire someone that can really help me. Cause what my problem right now is I just have so much stuff in my head.
Mm-hmm.
I need someone to help me sort it out,
Yeah.
at least in this, like, early stage.
Yeah. For
And
sure.
so, yeah, I would say those are the top 3 things right now.
Nice, man. Now that's good because I've worked with a lot of people where, at least this is like a good friend of mine. This is what it told me is like I am good at taking every like what people want to do
Mhm.
and packaging it for them. So we could have that conversation, man.
Yeah.
We could definitely talk through it because I do that for a lot of people
Yeah.
behind the scenes, just like, hey, let's talk through this, let's figure it out. But then it's hard for me to do it for myself.
Yeah, always. Bro,
Yeah,
I think of and again, everything has its purpose,
yeah,
everything has its reason, but a big reason for going back into, the space that I'm in is like, I'm like, okay, I think I've helped other people's vision
Mm,
long enough. I think I've helped build other people's, dreams long enough. And I'm thankful for every one of those opportunities,
yeah,
good and bad. Um, but now it's time to build my own. It's time to take the things that I've learned and apply
yeah,
it to, my dreams and my
yeah,
vision.
for sure. No, that's good. That's good. So I know you're probably gonna focus on video primarily, but with other things attached to it, obviously. Um, from the route of your video, what which way do you take? Because for me, I try to highlight the story. That's always my thing. I say everyone has a story and everyone has a story worth telling.
Hmm.
You know, what do you think your angle is when it comes to video?
Very similar. I think there the ability to tell stories, I think, is the greatest way to give people value.
Mm,
And so I would say that. And then the second thing would be like I have completely transitioned how I think about business
mhm,
and creative. I filter everything through the lens of value now. And I think that has been a game changer as
right.
far as coming to an end of a project
Mhm,
and feeling really good about it. Um, Working with clients that you are moving the needle for them.
mhm.
And then honestly being really transparent, but pricing what you
Yeah.
charge.
Yeah.
Um, I've been spending a lot of time, Chris Doe, we were talking off screen
Mhm.
about listening to like his material and podcasts. Like it's changed the game for me,
Yeah,
bro.
man.
Like,
Is a branding genius.
oh my goodness. And so um I don't want to work with anyone that I can't give value to.
Mhm.
And so gone are the days for me where I'm like, yeah, I can make you a cool video
Right.
or I can, you just want to have this cuz everyone else has it. I know I can create that for
Yeah.
you. Like I'm not doing that anymore.
Nice.
I'm literally going into every project
Mhm.
and every client saying like, "Hey, what are your problems
Mhm.
in your business that I can solve with storytelling and video and creative?"
Nice.
And I think for me, that has definitely just been a big game changer because most creatives don't go into it that
Thinking
way.
that way.
They go
Yeah.
in and they say, "Hey, like this is the gear that I'm shooting with.
Right.
This is the quality that I can get you. Oh, you want something that looks like that? Yeah, I can
Yeah.
do that."
Yeah.
Instead of saying like, "No, like what problems can I solve?"
Yeah.
Because if you can solve people's problems and give value that way,
Mhm.
that's how one everyone's going to be happy, but also that's where you'll find like you know monetarily,
Right.
you're gonna. It's a
It's a big difference.
big different.
At the end of the day, it's a service, and the thing attached to service is serve in.
Serve people,
Yeah.
bro. I'm so glad you said that because I think coming from a ministry background, we kind
Mhm.
of get that because
Yeah.
that's very ingrained in us
For
as far
sure.
as like everything you do, whether career and life, is service. But I think if you can really be intentional about that as a creative,
Mhm.
the bar is low.
Yeah.
You're gonna separate yourself very drastically
Mhm.
if you just have the mindset of like, how can I serve you?
Nice.
Not serve myself,
Right.
but serve you. It'll be night and day.
Yeah. No, that's good, man. That's really good. We've touched on a whole lot of things today, and it feels like it's been a short time, but I think we've been running like 45 minutes already.
Oh wow. It has not
But
felt like that.
I know. So what I want you to help, let's package this up, right? For people that new to the space,
Mhm.
new creatives, new video, people, what are like some steps you would give them, like if they want to transition from being a W-2 employee to owning their own business to freelancing? Let's give them 4 steps,
Okay.
right? What are some steps that, let's say this is the first thing you think you should do?
I would say the first thing, um, I would make sure that the timing is right.
Mm,
You have people that can dive off the deep end, take a leap of faith. If
mhm.
you're single,
Do it.
you can do
Now
that.
is the time.
You can do that. But if you have a family, if you have multiple properties that you're
Yeah,
responsible for, paying the mortgage on, um, it's a lot harder
yeah.
to just do that. So I would say always respect the timing.
Mhm.
Don't always feel like you have to make that jump right away.
Yeah.
Um, if you do decide to do that, I think it is possible to still succeed.
Mhm.
There have been so many um there have been so many times, primarily more so in real estate, where I
Mhm.
did things probably a little earlier than I should have.
Gotcha.
And today I'm okay.
Yeah,
But that journey, that process was a lot harder. It was a lot difficult.
for sure.
So it just depends on the type of person that you
Yeah.
are. Some people can weather that storm, come out on the other side, and be good. Some people don't come out on the other side.
Mhm.
You just got to know who you are as an individual. But I would say, like, don't be afraid to do both.
Yeah.
If you can, if you can work your W-2 and still make the connection, still get projects in, and the two are not, conflicting,
Yeah.
like do that as
Yeah.
long as you can.
Yeah.
And, don't be af there's no shame in that.
For sure. Not at all. So timing,
Yep.
get that timing right, and then the second thing.
Second thing, I would say relationships. Um, so you leave your full-time job, and then now you're in this freelance world. You have to literally view everything through the form of networking, relationships, and connection. Don't use people,
Right.
right? Like, because again, everything is all about serving. But when you go somewhere, you
Mhm.
have to be, when you go somewhere, when you have conversations with people, you have to be that, you can't turn it off as far as
Yeah.
like, oh, they just said something. I think I can help
Help them.
them.
Right.
I think I have something that can give them value and
Mhm.
solve that problem. And, I know people, if you're with me and you're in my circle,
Mhm.
you know that about me. I'm always like in conversation with people trying to figure out ways to,
To help them.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I would say, um, just really value the importance of relationships, networking, because your skill sets, which is probably a point too, is really develop that, get your reps in.
Mhm.
But that's needed. But really, at least for me, I think the relationships have been such a big pivotal part in my success.
Nice.
Um, and so now I'm in a place where I'm actually going to invest in the marketing, putting myself out there because I've never done that.
Just do it, bro.
Everything has been word of mouth,
Yeah.
relationships.
Yeah.
And it's got me this far, which is great.
Imagine what you could do.
So now, yeah, so that's the next step for me
Yeah.
for sure.
Nice. That's good. It's crazy that you say that because I'm starting to do that as well. Like I am naturally introvert.
Mm,
So if I'm talking to people, I don't like putting myself out there. But it's like,
yeah.
I could help you do that.
Hmm.
But the more I started doing it, the more business has actually come that way.
Yeah.
Like actually just saying, hey, this is what I do. I could help you if you need.
The reality is a lot of people are able to see their problems,
Mhm.
but a lot of people do need help with like what is a solution.
Yeah.
And like this is a really good example, but a client of mine, he's like, man, I feel like what you've been doing for my social media has been great. Like people look at it and they're like, oh, this company's legit. He's like,
Mhm.
you've solidified us as a brand
Mhm.
as legitimate. He was like, but I feel like my biggest problem is like I can't get sales guys.
Gotcha.
I could really move the needle if I could get a bunch of sales guys to come in and work for me. And so for me, again, it's always on. I'm
Yeah.
like, here's what you need to do. Like maybe we cut back on the organic social media.
Mhm.
Let's create creative ads, put some money behind that
Mhm.
so that then now you have this asset that entices people to then give you their information,
Yeah.
and you've got this whole funnel now of leads
Right.
to get sales guys on your team. And so it's things like that. And again, that's a problem where it's like you fix that
Mhm.
with creative,
Mhm.
and that business is now making more money. So guess what? They're gonna give you more money,
Right.
and then they're gonna come to you and say, "What other problems, that I have can you
Can we
fix?" And
fix? Yeah.
so I think that's the value of having that mindset,
Nice.
for sure.
Nice. That's good, man. So, time in, relationship, number 3.
Uh, Perfect your craft.
Mm. It's a big one.
Yeah, I think, and I don't know the order of these,
Yeah.
but
They could be in, yeah.
I do think definitely perfect your craft. Get better. Bro, there's so much to learn in this
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
There's so many things, that I feel like I learn every project that I do. It's never ending. You
Never.
can always get better.
Yep. That's something.
And, whenever, I was playing football, you knew after every game, it didn't matter how well you played.
Yeah.
That Monday, we were turning on the film,
Yep.
and the coach was gonna go through play by play. "Oh, good job, but you
Right.
coulda did this,"
Yeah.
and so I think having that growth mindset, always having the desire to perfect your craft,
Mhm.
you will start to, again, separate yourself from other people,
Yeah.
and so definitely perfect your craft. And one thing that I had to learn is you can watch videos on YouTube or have conversations with people, but it's really in the act of doing
Yeah. That you
that
learn.
you really learn.
Yeah.
And so whether it's doing spec work or
Mhm.
doing things just for yourself, get those reps in, just turn the camera on,
Yeah,
do it,
man.
set
Just
up the
do it.
lights,
Yeah.
figure it out by
But,
yourself,
yep.
just do it.
Yeah.
And it's really important.
Yeah, that's good. I feel like I'm always in that space, like trying to learn something new.
Mhm.
Like even though like today I was thinking, how many videos do I actually done?
Mm,
I'm probably close to 1,000, maybe.
yeah.
In like 8 years of actually doing this, there's the stuff that I've done on my own page, the stuff that I've done for a whole bunch of different people.
Mhm.
Is 1,000 too far out? I don't know. Maybe it is, but I've done. How many videos do you think you've done?
I couldn't even give you a number. I don't know. I genuinely don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
man, that's crazy because I'm like, if I was to really think about it, like all the organizations that I've helped with stuff, my own stuff, other
Yeah.
people's stuff, like it adds up,
Mhm.
and 1,000 is okay. I've done 10 videos for 100 people.
Yeah.
That's really, I feel like if I break it down that way,
Mm,
I've definitely done 1,000
yeah.
for sure. So definitely, get your craft, and make sure that you're working through whatever it is that you have to work in. So, time in, relationship, working on your craft. What is number 4?
I think number 4 for me, and I think there's multiple parts to it, but I think you have to enjoy the journey. You
Mhm.
have to enjoy the process. This is something that, uh, my aunt, she's very successful.
Mhm.
She always tells me this, but she's like, life is like a roller coasters. a roller coaster. There's gonna be ups, there's gonna be downs, but you just have to enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
And I think when it comes to anybody that's trying to make that transition,
Mhm.
you have to enjoy the process, enjoy the ride. There's gonna be moments where you feel like you can't make it.
Mhm.
You feel like you're holding on.
Mhm.
Maybe things are not going your way, and enjoy it
Yeah,
as hard as it is. But there's good that is going to come from that difficult moment.
for sure.
And there's gonna be times where you feel like you're on top of the world. Man, I'm killing it.
Yeah.
Like these clients think I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread. And
Uh,
enjoy that.
yeah.
Stay humble,
Right.
but enjoy
But
it.
enjoy it.
And I think if you can get to that point to where no matter what,
Mhm.
you're enjoying the process, you'll be in a really healthy place
Yeah.
and you'll go a lot further. And I think one of the things, again, I think there's a couple of parts to being able to do that, but comparison.
Mm.
I have so many conversations with people, and I think we were having this conversation, but it's like it's so easy to look at other people who are further ahead of where
Mhm.
you're at and be like, man, I'm not that good.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you are good.
Mhm.
You're just not there
There
yet.
yet. Right.
And so if you compare, you're right now to where they're at, you're
Mhm.
you're just gonna limit yourself
Mhm.
and your confidence. Bro, creativity and confidence, it's it's
Yeah.
it's a marriage.
Right.
Like, you can't have one without the other
Yeah.
in a successful way.
For sure.
So if you're comparing yourself constantly to other people, it's gonna limit your confidence, which as a result will limit your creativity.
Mhm.
And so I think being content with where you're at in your journey,
Mhm.
in your process, and just like going from there,
Yeah.
like that's how you'll really be able to thrive.
Nice, man. No, that's good. That's good. I was listening to Erwin McManus.
He's dope.
Yeah. It said something to this point where comparison. People say comparison is a thief of joy sometimes,
Hmm.
but it brought it from a place of don't compare yourself, obviously, to the people that are far ahead of you in a sense where that it's like I can't reach where they are,
Hmm.
but compare yourself to them and say I could get there.
Mm.
And that's more of a motivating factor than it is stealing your joy.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
And
That's good.
I was when he said that I was like, man, that is really good.
Yeah, I think I've always needed to I'm a very visual person,
Mhm.
clearly,
Yeah.
but I've always needed to be able to see that person who is ahead
Hmm.
and be inspired by it. And although I may be different, I may do things differently,
For
but
sure.
I've always needed to see someone ahead to
Yeah.
know that okay, I can do it.
Right.
I can get there
Right.
and use it as inspiration.
Definitely, man. Who are you looking at right now? Are people that like either mentoring you close by or mentoring you from video?
Yeah, I would say for sure, just right now, from the business side,
Yeah.
business and branding side, I've been just watching so much stuff from Chris Do.
Mhm.
Um, Again, a lot of these ideas and principles that I've adopted as far as like value,
Mhm.
um, service, and things like that, like those are things that I've learned from him.
Yeah.
And so, um, I would say that's a big one. When it comes to perfecting my craft, um, I just bought Full Time Filmmaker
Oh yeah.
recently. I don't know if you have that or if you've been on
Nah,
that.
I just watch your stuff on YouTube.
Yeah,
And
so I actually purchased their
the whole
course,
thing.
which is also another plug for
Nice.
people. Like, don't be afraid to invest in yourself,
Yeah.
because it does pay off. But Bro, I just recently I don't know how you said 1,000, I don't know how many videos I've done, but I just bought that course just to touch up on, you know, yeah, literally my craft, and
Yeah.
so I've been going through and watching stuff like that, and, so Parker he's the guy that started that, but he's somebody that
Sold it.
I look at a lot and kinda learn from. Um, Omar
Yeah.
Takori, in Vegas. He's, he's someone that I've been tapping into, peeping his stuff
Mhm.
and learning from. He's been doing a lot of interviews with people that I feel like have inspired me.
Nice.
And so I think from him, I've been getting a lot of that inspiration.
Nice.
So yeah, those are a
Nice,
few
bro.
people.
That's good. That's good. I definitely would love to bring you back once you get out of nothing, like
Yeah,
maybe going to where you want to go, and then talk through, your brand and talk through how you strategize to get to where, I know that you're heading. So
yeah.
yeah, bro. Appreciate you, man, for
Appreciate you, man. This has been great for
yeah.
sure.
It's been a minute since I've seen you, but
Yeah,
I've always kept up with whatever it is that you're doing. So
always and
yeah.
likewise.
Yeah, bro. So before we end, let's say a word of wisdom to creatives, to anyone watching. What is one thing that it's like you really love for them to grab onto?
This is something that I've not done well in my own life,
Mm,
but I've, um, really made a commitment to do better at this because I just think it's so important. But don't do things alone. Like, find that support system,
mhm,
find that community, and find people that can challenge you as well as be your cheerleader,
mhm.
um, when you need it. And yeah, really grab a hold of that because I just think, yeah, that lonely journey of
Oof.
trying to do everything on your own,
Yeah,
you just it's hard, it's
it is.
brutal,
It is.
it's hard on you, and yeah, it's just not a fun place to be in. So I would say to anyone watching this, definitely find your circle
Mm,
of people that can really be a support system for you in whatever you're doing, creative or not.
yeah, that's good. That is so good, bro. I think even though you and I are in the same space, we're not in competition with each other. We're here to support each other, and continue to grow
Yeah.
wherever it is that we're going. So
Appreciate you, bro.
appreciate you, bro.
Yes, sir.
But before we even finish, where can people find you?
I'm on Instagram, Threads, TikTok, just Romell Freeman, Romell Freeman. That's where you can find me.
Nice. Nice, man. Well, you guys heard it here. So we'll create to create something. So go create something.